What happens, I think, is that people's perception, people want an asset class that performs before the next long weekend.
Yeah.
And they think that what they want is somehow relevant. Look at that number, 2019 to 2021, you're up from $16 to $25, and people are finding something to complain about. And bear in mind, if past is prologue, the second half of the bull market historically has been much more dramatic than the front half.
Rick, with the incredible volatility in the precious metals market, do you believe that we will see the demand for silver triple soon?
Soon. You guys are always trying to make it time sensitive because your younger audience doesn't have a sense of perspective. I don't know about soon. I think that we've been conditioned by 40 years of benign economic climate to expect a continuance of benign economic climate. So I wouldn't expect public perceptions to change for perhaps a year, perhaps 2 years. I can't really tell you. Mm-hmm. I don't think it matters if what you're looking at is the type of increase that I see in precious metals prices and the type of increase that I see in precious metals equities. If you're a year and a half early, even with the time value of money, the rent that you'll receive, if I'm right, is so extraordinary that you can be 18 months early, and it's not going to matter to you over the rest of your life. I realize it matters to people psychologically.
Yeah.
But the fact that people continue to ask themselves questions where the answer begins with if, preferring those questions where the answers begin with when, is a fundamental investing mistake. I think that it is highly probable that the circumstance that I described will take place. The question is when. And if you ask yourself a question where the answer begins with when, you're asking yourself a very, very, very high quality question. The silver squeeze, as we've discussed before, or what's commonly called the silver squeeze, which is millions of retail buyers buying silver and adding silver to their portfolio, has been important, I think. But the real silver squeeze, from my point of view, comes about when the largest institutional investors in the world recognize that the 40% of their portfolios that they have involved in debt instruments needs to be changed. 40% of institutional portfolios aren't performing, and the institutional managers are going to need to change their investment behavior. And I believe that some amount of that money will find its way into the silver market. And I don't think that there is sufficient silver or certainly silver equities to satisfy that demand. Specifically, and we've talked about this before, the market share of precious metals and precious metals related assets in the United States market for savings and investment is less than 0.5%, which is to say 0.5% of the savings and investment assets in the United States market are made up of precious metals and precious metals related securities. Historically, the mean valuation of precious metals and precious metals related assets, or put differently, the market share, has been between 1.5% and 2%. At the very least, over the next 5 years, I think that precious metals will return to mean, which means that demand for precious metals and precious metals related equities in the United States market, the most important savings and investment market in the world, will triple or quadruple. In my heart of hearts, I don't think that we're going to have reversion to mean. I think that we're going to overshoot mean, but I don't need to overshoot mean to make my case. A circumstance where the Harvard University Endowment, the Stanford Endowment, Teachers Investment and Annuity, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Chinese Sovereign Wealth Fund, Norges Bank, to the extent that the largest institutional investors in the world increased their holdings in precious metals from zero to their 3-decade mean, would lead to a tripling or quadrupling of demand for silver. And that would be a real silver squeeze. A squeeze of a dimension that I don't think that we have seen since the 1970s. A squeeze that would in fact put the efforts of the Hunts in the 1970s into proper perspective. 3 fat boys from Dallas did a pretty amazing thing to the silver market, but nothing compared to what the largest insurance companies and endowments and pension plans in the world will almost necessarily have to do over the next 5 years. I see 2 things happening. and they're both important. I see the need for a behavioral change among individual investors, which would mean that I see individual investors abandoning the course of action that they've adopted over the last 40 years. I think one savings class for individual investors needs to be a medium of exchange that's simultaneously a store of value, which is to say silver or gold. I want to see real rather than fiat liquidity in individual portfolios. And I think that the silver squeeze was very useful in that it taught 1 million young people that they need to have an asset in their portfolio that isn't simultaneously somebody else's liability. Yeah. That is classical money, which is silver.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
I have bad news for you. If you're not rich by now, you're screwed. And if you're in debt, you're even double screwed. How so, you might wonder? Well, the sad truth is that you're working your whole life to make someone else rich. The mega corporations, the banks, the politicians, everyone is getting richer. They get your money. And what is even worse, they get your time, they get your life. You are not even in a rat race, you're in a financial prison. But what could a solution for you look like? Honestly, I don't know, but I know what a solution for me would look like. It's very simple. I use whatever money I have and I multiply it with 1,000. This could make my life much easier and probably yours as well. If you have $1,000 available and multiply this with 1,000, I believe that this could solve some financial issue for the one or the other. Of course, if you're ugly, you would have to multiply it with much more than 1,000. My name is Markus Stan, and this is what I decided to do. I decided to 1000x my money. This is not a joke. I know what you may be thinking. What is this guy talking about? How should this work? This is not possible. Well, I made a detailed video where I laid out my plan. And some clever folks might even want to look at this plan and copy it and do exactly what I do. This is just a little hint on the side. You have two options. You leave, you forget what you have seen. You do whatever you're doing and you hope that somehow you get some other results. Good luck with that. Or you click the link below the video. You enter your email address because I'm not showing this to everybody. You at least watch my video on how I plan to 1000x my money. The choice is yours. Make the right choice. Join me. See what a different future you could have. See at least how I intend, how I plan to do the 1000x. So click on the link below, enter your email address, and I see you on the other side. Your Markus Stan.